the actual revolution is going to begin in the marketplace.
I'm Peter Hoffman, the owner and chef of Savoy Restaurant in New York City, and the national chair of the Chefs Collaborative. The dish I'm preparing today is with pork. It's humanely raised pork. It comes from upstate New York, raised by some farmers at Flying Pigs Farm in Shushan. And we love working with this pork because we know that the animals have lived a happy life, and we can taste that right in the meat. The way that most commercially raised pigs are treated and the life that they live in this country is they're inside barns, and they don't get out, they don't get to run around in the mud, and it's not a happy life for them, and it doesn't produce very good meat.
Pork is the most intensive of the farm animal productions. An increasing proportion, maybe 80% of pigs produced in this country are now produced entirely in large housed operations, never going out onto pasture or outdoors except when they're transported to slaughter, and often, usually, kept in very intensive conditions. Perhaps the most unpleasant of the aspects of housing here is the housing of the mother. While she is pregnant, which is about 3.5 months, she will usually be kept in what's called a gestation crate. A crate so small that she cannot turn round, it's only just longer than her body and wider than her body, kept there for 3.5 months, so all she can do is stand up and lie down.
These animals develop stereotypical behavior, abnormal behavior, much like what you see in zoos when wild animals are caged. And they suffer very deeply when they're confined so extremely.
You can get a higher production by concentrating these animals, but then the downside of that is when animals are stressed in these more artificial situations, they tend to be much more susceptible to diseases and other things, so that's why they feed them filled with antibiotics and other drugs. So it's sort of a vicious cycle.
Antibiotics are used routinely even in healthy pigs, cows, poultry. They're used on a day-to-day basis. By one estimate, 70 to 80% of the antibiotics used in this country are actually fed to terrestrial animals. It's just a mind-boggling number.
We recognize that this is still a much evolving field, that there's still lots of information that we need to have before we have totally satisfied that we have prevented any adverse effects in the human population.
A single hog will produce 10 times the amount of waste as a human being. So a facility with 50,000 animals in it produces the same amount of waste as a city with 500,000 people. Now a city would have to treat the waste under the Clean Water Act, and so does a hog facility, but they don't do it. They locate in rural areas where they can easily dominate the local political landscapes and stop enforcement of environmental laws against them.
The argument that the industry makes is, well, we need to do it this way because there's billions of people in the world today, and feeding the masses requires this factory technology, this industrial technology. It's just not true.
It's destroyed family farming in this country. 15 years ago, there were 27,500 independent family farmers raising hogs in North Carolina. Today, there are none.
The choices our public officials have been making have facilitated the rise of industrial agriculture. and the kind of environmental degradation and threats to human health and animal abuse that we see now beginning to dominate agriculture.
All we need is the consumer to go into the store and say, how is this stuff raised? And if it wasn't raised outdoors, they shouldn't be buying it. And soon enough, the industry will get the message, and we can go back to this wonderful, proven methodology.
And here's the completed dish. It's the black beans and coconut milk, the homemade kimchi with ramps, and the pork from upstate New York from Flying Pigs Farm. And a little bit of jus.